Thank you very much. His Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, after this very interesting information, these facts, these figures, I think you made just the first bridge to my short speech, which goes far more into soft skills, experience, a very local experience at the Mirador Resort and Spa. Very brief, I hope some of you know the Mirador. Yes, I get some. And the ones who don't know it, please come and see. It's a jewel, especially now when it's so hot. We always have a little breeze on 800 meters above Vevey. So I felt very honored to be asked to share my experience as general manager of Le Mirador Resort and Spa today with such an interesting audience. Especially the question that was in the invitation, is the clash of cultures inevitable or unavoidable, triggered my interest in particular. To take my conclusion right to the start of my short speech, yes, it is avoidable. Let me start with the facts. As mentioned, Mr. Hon Kwok Lung from China bought Le Mirador as of the 1st of April 2016. The previous owner, a German businessman, has tried over a few years to sell the property as he was tired to cover the operational shortfall that resulted over the past years. Of course, a due diligence, I believe not by KPMG, but a due diligence had been conducted, and as a result, the hotel could be purchased at a reasonable price of 45 million Swiss francs. An escrow account was built, which was definitely necessary as there were many uncertainties with regard to legal and financial matters. The previous owner ended the management contract with Kempinski in December 2015, and Le Mirador became a freestanding property. The reservation system and the standards are guaranteed, of course, through the affiliation with leading hotels of the world and Swiss deluxe hotels. With the change of the ownership came the change of management, and the owning company, Citychamp Dartong, started with an acting general manager and an advisory board. It was a rough start, as the property, the accounting, the overall guest satisfaction had been neglected over the past months, maybe even years. How did I get on board? You know, a girl from Basel, and I was in Basel quite happy after many, many years abroad. Maybe it was coincidence, or probably it was fate. I met a former guest of the property I managed in Basel until 2008. It was him who convinced me to join the advisory board. I thought at my age, this is a very intelligent move. However, after only 2 visits, I realized that the property needed a strong character to take the reins of the operation. In short, I accepted to take on the challenge as general manager in September 2016. The reason, I mean, many people said, why do you want to do that to you again, to take over management of a hotel? This is not just a 100% job, this is a 200% job. Well, I accepted it with a very simple reason. As a Swiss citizen and a long-time general manager, I felt embarrassed about the state this beautiful property was in. I felt obliged to help the new owner to put this operation back on track, because I also realized that the sale of this hotel to a Chinese investor was a unique opportunity for this business, for its employees, for the surroundings, and thinking big also for the Swiss tourism industry. I felt that I had to show that there are still, I allow myself, Swiss professionals who are prepared to invest in hard work and enthusiasm in order to achieve the financial and quality goals that are needed to make this investment worthwhile for the owner. And now I come to the title of my speech today, Bridges Lead to Success. I think you talked before about bridges, right? And I strongly believe, also when I read about the Silk Road, every road needs also bridges, right? On the one hand, there is the Chinese investor who until now was not in the hotel business. And on the other hand, a hotel team that had great expectations with regards to the investment needed for the hardware and its operation. When I came on board, I had to start to build the first bridge. How? By understanding the hotel's needs and also, of course, very importantly, by trying to understand the owner's expectations. I was used to working for companies that communicated openly and clearly their vision, their expectations. We elaborated together plans. By this, I don't mean only financial budgets, but also sales and marketing strategies. And with this, we went forward. When I took over this hotel, no such information was available. I dared to ask Mr. Hon Kwok Loong directly what his plans and his expectations were for Le Mirador. The answer was very polite and very elaborate. For sure, the language barrier did not help. We always need somebody to interpret because my Mandarin is non-existing. I had to understand his pictures, and my translation thereof led to the owner wishes to be proud when he visits the hotel together with his friends, his family or business partners. He expects 5-star standards and that this bottomless pit will become self-contained. It was a very simple picture, really, but it helped me to understand, and then it was easy for me to elaborate the internal goals for quality and financial results. I could reach out to my colleagues and communicate in a way they understood and they were used to. Had I been stubborn at this moment when I started, or short-sighted, and insisted on receiving a written document from the owning company, I would have never received it. I would have been frustrated and say, where do they want to go? And this would have definitely reflected negatively on my team. As time went by, my team and I cleaned up and worked hard by concentrating entirely on our mission to provide a 5-star service and find ways to put a lid on this bottomless lid. By doing so, I had to go on building bridges. On one side, the hotel was in need of investment and of cash flow to settle old debts. And on the other side was the owning company being astonished about the costs, about the high payroll, and so forth. I had to explain in depth and with patience and a little bit stubbornness the needs of investment and also the Swiss legal requirements, for instance, with regard to the strict requirements of the labor law. I informed in a transparent and straightforward way, elaborating the whys and wherefores. The need for cash flow was documented in detail. I also made sure to explain clearly the expectations of our suppliers, for instance, the butchers, the local winemakers, and also our advantages for price negotiations if we honor the payment conditions. Our voice was heard at the owning company's headquarters. We received the support needed to bring back good relations with our suppliers and a favorable reputation in the area. These were most important factors in order to build on the future of the business. We received the funds to catch up on maintenance works that needed urgent attention and had been neglected over the past years. And we were able to not only extend the health center, but also redecorate the restaurant, some guest rooms, and add a second restaurant. At the end of 2017, an owner's representative arrived at the hotel, well, over a year after I started the hotel, or almost 2 years after the purchase of the hotel. Only then I found out that this position had been determined already upon the date of the purchase of the hotel. The executive was to oversee and develop the investments of the owning company in Switzerland. Such a sudden new structure could have caused considerable clashes within the team. However, because we are not used to in Switzerland easily in a hotel that we have the owner's representative also on site. However, my experience of 1987-88 in China with a property, I was there for an opening of Swiss Hotel in Tianjin, helped me to understand why the reasons why the owning company requested a Chinese representative from their inner circle on site. We had another bridge. Direct communication between the hotel and the headquarters in China, no language barrier anymore. And this allows, of course, full monitoring. I explained the reason and purpose of this position and communicated openly and with complete transparency to my hotel team. Also, I explained the needs and expectations of the hotel and its team openly to the owner's representative. By doing so, no fear or uncertainty came up. We were able to create a healthy work environment for all parties concerned. And also, by the way, as a Swiss investor in China, would I not also want somebody, to oversee my business in China? Somebody who definitely understands my culture and my language? Looking back at the 3 years since Mr. It's serious and a few months, since Mr. Hon Kwok Lung has bought HL Le Mirador International SA, we can say much has been achieved. Guest satisfaction is up, the balance sheet is neat and tidy, and the hotel operation shows a healthy base. My personal plan was 1 year for cleaning up, 1 year for polishing, and 1 year then enjoy the fruits. The financial results, however, show that the polishing period had to be extended. This is mainly due to need of increased turnover. This has nothing to do with culture or investment in the product, but with the general economic environment and our efforts of sales and marketing. This is why at this stage, sales and marketing are of highest priority in order to drive top line. Possible changes of affiliations and new partnerships are being evaluated. And the owning company in China shows understanding and offers support. However, the owning company also has started to request increased alignment with headquarters with regard to procedures. With this, the accounting had to be insourced again. It was difficult for me to understand. Well, first I have to say that when I arrived, after seeing the accounting, we outsourced it, and it worked very well for 2 years. So therefore, it was difficult for me to understand the reasoning. And in the beginning, I did not, why should we change winning horse, right? But empathy helped to be open and to this change, and implementation went smooth by May this year. I mention such details as it shows that the Chinese owning company is committed to giving support needed. We can feel that the bridges we built together are solid. Empathy, staying humble, and putting myself into the shoes of the investor certainly helped during this time. I dare call it construction time. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, my experience is yes, definitely yes, clashes of cultures are avoidable. I allow myself in a humble way, from my own experience, to give some recommendations for a successful business relationship. Transparency in all actions and communication, even if it only comes from your side. Focus on priorities and be open to understand each other's needs. Maintain a positive attitude, even in moments of not agreeing or understanding completely. Stay humble. Continuous learning about each other's cultures, customs, way of communicating, And by the way, I don't only mean, that we Swiss, we learned that we have to use both hands when we hand over business cards. It goes much further. Trying to find or understand the pieces that match the overall puzzle. I refer there to the strategy, to the vision, to the long-range plan. All this together creates trust, and there, you mentioned it just before, it's trust, which also, I believe, is essential for building bridges between humans. This way, a solid foundation can be built and be further developed. In our internal vision for my colleagues, we always have at the end this little slide. Do not be afraid of a long road to success, only be afraid of a shortage of ambition. I hope, His Excellency, that in Chinese it's correctly translated. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention.